corporate records of account holders.
He claimed it would show the true picture of Deutsche Bank from the inside, what was happening with the money and the shares.
Right. So, by all accounts, that man or woman should be in prison for stealing bank records, and then what he attempted to do was sell them. He was shopping on the internet, trying to find a buyer for these bank records. Shifty Shift wanted them, but didn't want to come up with the money to buy them. So Shifty Shift got a house subpoena and subpoenaed the records from the man who had them and seized them.
You know initially who tried to offer the money, Rick? And it was cheap, only $1,000 for Val Broekschmidt. This is the stepson of the Deutsche Bank executive Bill Broekschmidt, who commits suicide in 2014. It's the man who stole the document, who the son really is the one who was trying to sell it.
His stepson.
Right, yeah, and I meant to say that the stepson is the one. So the stepson got them from his stepfather.
Yes.
The stepfather is the one who stole them.
Yes,
right?
that's correct.
But as bankers have a tendency to do, Bill Broekschmidt committed suicide.
Yes.
And, you know.
Was he one of those bankers that jumped off a building?
He was actually. I don't know if he jumped off the building, but he was among we consider the high-profile bank suicides of 2014.
By the way, I just tell our audience, I'm noticing a new, it's not significant, but I'm starting to see news stories about bankers dying.
Again, that's right. And we've had a couple of them in headlines.
And I've not seen this since the 2008 crisis. And, you know, I was the first person back then to put this together, that the bankers were dying. You know, we brought that information out. And then it started to be so many bankers, we couldn't keep track. We lost count of how many bankers had jumped off buildings.
Banker of the week and everything for a while there.
What was happening everywhere? They were falling off the top of skyscrapers, okay? So anyhow, Shifty Shift got these bank records.
It was after Fusion GPS.
Yes.
$1,000. Fusion GPS, the very group behind the Steele dossier, the original coup against President Trump.
All right. Now, Doc, I know you wouldn't come to me. Edward probably would, okay?
What is he doing now, Rick?
Because he would want to take this risk. So he would come to me and say, hey, Rick, there's a stepson of a dead banker, and he's got all of Deutsche Bank's records, and he'll sell them to True News for $1,000.
It's a steal, right?
Yeah, it's a steal.
And it's a true story.
Yeah. And for $1,000, True News can, you know, release
exclusive outlet to release
exclusive news story on the inside story about Deutsche Bank.
Well, whose bank records are we talking about?
Well, Donald Trump's, but a lot of other people. Okay, there's a lot of other people in this. But here's the point, Doc. If Edward came to me with that deal, I would say, are you out of your mind? You want me to buy stolen bank records? They'll put me in prison. I'll be in possession of stolen bank records.
They'll say we stole them.
No, they just say you bought them.
We have them.
Yeah.
We
bought them.
trafficked in confidential documents.
Yes. They would put me in prison. U.S. Marshals would be here. They would seize True News.
If you attempted to buy it.
If I even had a thought about buying it, okay, that would be a conspiracy to buy it, okay? So they would lock us up. U.S. Marshals would be here. They would seize this building. There would be no more True News if we purchased those stolen bank records. But Shifty Shift could get them.
But he didn't want to come up with the money.
So he just seized them.
Yeah.
Okay?
But what this story tells me, Rick, is that there's definitely a lot of journalists, even operatives, who are currently looking for dirt on Adam Schiff. And he has become this focal figure in the impeachment insanity against President Trump. Schiff is on thin ice, I think, with most of the country, especially after his parody session in the House Intelligence Committee a couple days ago now. Rick, you know he got accosted at an airport. You know, Schiff doesn't travel around with an actual bodyguard. A man came up to him, and it's in this climate, it's a dangerous time especially for someone to become the focal point of something like, especially during speeches President Trump's giving daily.
Mr. Schiff is, well, he's pushing the envelope quite far. And he's playing a very dangerous game in what he's doing. There's a story that John Bolton possibly could be the inside source for the whistleblower, if there is a whistleblower.
So hot air, it's a political rumor mill, but they quoted actually a well-known columnist named Cockburn. He's a Washington Beltway veteran. They believe that as a parting gift, John Bolton might have not just seeded the complaint, but also seeded the information for it to take place. And one of the biggest arguments for this is that John Bolton actually kept out of the Ukraine portfolio. He would comment about it, but he wasn't involved in much of the activities. The trips, for example, John Bolton was never on them, though they were taking place during his tenure. The speculation here would be maybe John Bolton was behind not only this, but also the push on rhino, kind of neocon senators like Lindsey Graham. Remember how Lindsey Graham came out against the president often for not bombing Iran, but more so not funding the military aid package to Ukraine.
And you can be certain John McCain was in favor of the U.S. coup in Ukraine.
Yes.
Because that's his kind of activity. He loves that kind of stuff.
Well, him and Lindsey Graham, they visited that SS brigade that formed over there in the Ukraine. And they're also, mind you, were both pictured visiting the Free Syrian Army. Remember down in Syria?
That's right.
That's their crowd.
Absolutely. Now, what about Rush Limbaugh saying that John Brennan traveled to Ukraine with a fake passport?
And Rush said this on his program earlier today, it was in his first hour, and I had never recalled hearing about this before. Maybe we covered it in the past at some point, but I don't recall it. But Rush Limbaugh broke some shocking news today. He said that Brennan reportedly traveled to the Ukraine with a fake passport to dig up dirt on Donald Trump. And they were doing this during the Obama administration.
2014.
So now that's the first I'd ever heard of anything like that. Have you ever heard?
It was
that
happening that early, 2014?
That was the time frame, I believe, that he presented. 2014 would have been the year, 2014, 2015, especially since it would have been during the time period that John Brennan, the former CIA director, was still the CIA director. So I think with this...
Why does he need a fake passport if he's the CIA director?
Well, if he wanted to travel, for example, Jeffrey Epstein had fake passports, right? You wanted to travel without being detected. If you wanted to go into the country, unlike Rudy Giuliani,
without leaving a
trail
that you were there. So only an intelligence agency can produce fake passports. If you do it, I do it, we go to prison. But if they do it,
they get promoted.
They get promoted.
Rush said, I got an email. What do you mean Brennan traveled to Ukraine with a fake passport? I didn't hear that. Well, folks, I'm sorry. Let me give you the details. John Brennan, Obama's director of CIA, went to Ukraine under a fake passport so that nobody would know it was him. Fake name. Can you do that? Can you get a fake passport? No. John Brennan can, CIA director. I'm surprised he even needed a passport. But he went under a fake passport to get opposition research on Trump.
So once again, if this turns out to be true, it shows that the CIA is involved in a political takedown of a presidential candidate. It means nobody in this country can run for president if the CIA is against him or her.
And it's really been an open coup for the last 3 years. Think about us, we were talking about there being some kind of coup in 2016,
Hey, what's up, man? Good
2017. Or it's almost 2020. And there's been no accountability here. The last major coup push has been left unprosecuted. There's no one who's been sent to jail from the intelligence community, Rick. Now, based on what we're reading here, there is nothing that can stop the next election cycle from being manipulated and infiltrated way worse than what occurred in 2016. Maybe half the campaign staff will be agents.
We have to wonder how many presidential campaigns, say in primaries, they never made it to they never won the nomination. How many campaigns were derailed because the CIA infiltrated their campaign, dug up dirt on them and brought their campaign down.
An intelligence advisor, as they would call him, or a liaison inside the campaign, messing it up from the inside.
Well, this is where we're at, though, as a nation, Rick. Think about this. Those that are opposed to President Trump, if you would ask them, would you support a coup that would take down President Trump? What would they say? They'd be in favor of it, generally, right? The majority. And if you ask those who support the president, is there an attempt, a deep state coup underway to take down President Trump? I would say the majority of President Trump's supporters would say, yes, it's going on. It's happening. That's the mindset that we would accept a coup, that we think it's normal.
But Doc, 2018 campaign, when we were going to the rallies,
Yes, the midterm.
in the midterm elections, Edward was asking Trump voters, what do you think about the deep state trying to take down the president? And the Trump voters were saying, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what is a deep state. I've never heard of it.
That's right. He was getting that response.
So on the street level, they don't know. It's over their head. They can't think. The average American cannot process that a government agency like the CIA and the FBI would be involved in criminal activity to stop a president. So they don't even think it happened because their patriotism gets in the way.
It's really important you just noted here, Rick, because if you knew that the American public is not actually listening or even aware of this deep state, this coup, these other things the president is now literally tweeting about.
Sure will, Calabos. I appreciate the follow, dude.
You could play
appreciate
like
it,
that.
man. Thank you very much.
You could make the president act out, lose his composure. For example, during events that happened during this press conference today that we showed at the beginning, 5 or 6 times of that happening, you have enough footage now for campaign ads of the president acting irrational, the president acting crazy, or should I say mentally ill? Wasn't there a push to the 25th Amendment the president on this?
Yeah, well, don't rule that out that it doesn't happen again in the next month or two. They can get him, they can provoke him to really say something in anger. So was it yesterday that First Baptist Dallas,
Sunday morning.
Pastor of First Baptist Dallas, Texas, Bob Jeffries, was on Fox Nation, Fox News Network, and Todd Starnes was interviewing him. This is amazing how we're hearing now on so-called mainstream news are topics that we've talked about on True News for years.
Just a few days ago that Bob Jeffers was talking about Civil War and Christian militias, I mean, he didn't use those terms, but he did say Civil War.
That's right. And so we've said for years that the abortion industry in America is America's worship of Moloch.
Yes.
Right.
We're sacrificing children to Moloch at
We've
the abortion
industrialized
clinics.
it, yes.
So Moloch came up in the Bob Jeffers interview on Fox Nation.
Yes.
So we have a video clip of Todd Starnes interviewing Bob Jeffers, and then we'll tell you what happened after this. Watch this.
Look, the Democrats knew they couldn't beat him at the ballot box in 2016. They are becoming increasingly aware of the fact that they can't beat him in 2020 either. Impeachment is the only option they have to remove Donald J. Trump from office. And look, I heard this sanctimonious Nancy Pelosi this weekend calling for prayer for our country and praying for prayer. Look, that reminds me of an arsonist, a pyromaniac with a match in his hand about to set a building on fire saying, now pray with me that the destruction I'm about to cause isn't too severe. I mean, if he's sincere, he'll put down the dang match. And if Nancy Pelosi is sincere about bringing this nation together, she will drop this impeachment effort. Let the American people decide 1 year
What's
from
your channel
now,
name,
from
man?
now
I'm trying to find
ballot
it.
box.
Calabos1?
But she is
Mixer.com/Calabos1?
at what the American people will choose to do, and that is to keep Donald J. Trump in office.
We just assume they're praying to God. I'm not quite sure. I don't know, Dr. Jeffers. I mean, they booed God, tried to vote him out of the party platform.
Well, apparently the God they worship is the God of the pagan God of the Old Testament, Moloch, who allowed for child sacrifice. I mean, the God of the Bible doesn't sanction the killing of millions and millions of children in the womb. I think the God they are worshiping is the God of their own imagination.
He must be drinking some extra strong coffee lately.
Amen to him.
It's Bob Jeffers.
He's right.
Bob Jeffers is right. What he said is right. And so, according to therap.com, Fox News has gotten rid of Todd Starnes today.
What?
Over that interview. He's no longer there.
Because of the interview with
Because
Bob
of that
Jeffers?
interview. Now, Fox News has not said that's the reason, but the Wrap said the Wrap has learned that Todd Starnes' contract at Fox News is not being renewed. The host will no longer be working at the network, its website, or its premium subscription service, Fox Nation. His removal comes a few days after he said on the radio program that Democrats do not believe in the Christian God and instead may worship Moloch, a pagan god often associated with child sacrifice. When asked for comment, Fox News confirmed the news that Starnes is no longer working at the network.
Not just off of Fox Nation, the whole thing.
It's gone. You diss Moloch in America?
We fire you from Fox News.
That's right. The conservative news network that all the Christians watch. Just think about that. Okay, Bob Jeffers is on, his program is on...
Pathway to Freedom is on Fox News.
Is on Fox Nation.
I wonder if he's talking about Moloch on Pathway to Freedom.
Or if he is, and if anyone else is.
Doesn't it show you?
This is a precedent.
If you diss Moloch in America, what happens? The wrath of their God comes against you.
That's right.
Because they really do worship Moloch with their baby sacrificing. And so Bob Jeffers simply told the truth, that abortion is child sacrifice to Moloch. I've said that for 20-some years here. I said more than 20 years. I've been pro-life ever since abortion has been legalized in this country. Always been pro-life. And but Todd Starnes has been kicked out. So he's gone. So Todd, if you're watching, we'd be glad to give you a job here at True News. We will never fire you for standing up for Jesus Christ. You'll never be fired at True News for standing up for Jesus Christ. So Todd, if you're out of work, you're looking for a place to go, you can come over here to True News.
It's a call.
And if you call me, I won't hang up on you, I promise. I promise, Todd. You hung up on me, but I won't hang up on you. Let's see, what else we got here? So yesterday we were talking about how the media is starting to float trial balloons on a possible President Pence in the White House.
We were just chatting about it, just kind of saying, you know, what about the possibility here? And then today, this morning, as I come into the office, my RSS feeds are showing up, you know, President Pence, possible Pence 2020, and all these things. Well, I thought, what's going on here? Were we 12 to 18 hours ahead of the curve? Apparently we were, because now there's a lot of media outlets that are starting to talk about the possibility of a President Pence.
That's what we did. So we picked up that the Bloomberg article was
Talking points.
The talking points. They floated a trial balloon, and that was the beginning of the campaign. The leftist news media is now telling the conservatives, you really would like Mike Pence to be your president.
And not just conservatives, evangelicals.
Yes,
And they
they're
dig in.
specifically going for evangelicals.
This is the guy you really want, right? You don't want some foul-mouthed, New Yorker. You want some good, strong Christian Midwestern governor, right? I mean, that's basically what they're selling.
That's right. So Politico, how President Pence would blow up 2020. CNN, Mike Pence's moral case for removing a president from office. So they went back to the Clinton impeachment.
Yes.
And they got comments.
Sound bites for
They got sound bites from Mike Pence saying that the right thing to do for the morality of the nation was to remove Bill Clinton. So they're now playing Mike Pence's comments.
And specifically Mike Pence's comments about adultery.
Yes.
So they were pulling those up today, saying an adulterer really shouldn't be in the White House.
Yes.
That's what Mike Pence was saying back
We're
then.
trying to make a revival of the moral majority. I mean, that's how this is shaping up. And New York Magazine, they were in a say behind the Civil War quote, President Trump may fear the Christian right wants Pence. Now, what they did in this this piece, Rick, is they simply brought out every occasion where President Trump has either put Vice President Pence on the spot, like we highlighted yesterday, but more so, they've said that the president himself might fear that all along Vice President Pence has wanted the position and has been undermining him from the beginning. For example, who was in charge of the Tiger teams that hired this dysfunctional administration? It was Vice President Pence.
That's true. Well, President Trump, I think, is pretty lonely in the White House. I think he knows. He's very much like Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln didn't know who he could trust. And obviously his gut instinct was correct. They shot his head off, all right? And that was a Democratic coup to overthrow the government. And there were insiders. That aided a conspiracy. There was a conspiracy on the night that Lincoln was shot. There was a conspiracy to take out the Lincoln cabinet.
The entire
to
government.
decapitate the Lincoln government, which was the first Republican administration in America's history. And it was the Democrats that started the Civil War and murdered Abraham Lincoln. I keep waiting for the left to make a big deal of me saying this. Apparently, they haven't heard me say it.
I don't want to touch
I'll
it.
say it again. The Democrats started the Civil War and they murdered Abraham Lincoln, the first Republican president. Did I make it clear?
I think you're pretty clear.
All right, I'm really
sure all the
hoping somebody
recorders-
on the left will pick this up and say, Wow says Democrats murdered Abraham Lincoln. Please put that in the headline and put it out there for me.
But normally they don't put out truth. So
Well, maybe they'll put out some truth on this one. In the past 2 days, the Dow has dropped more than 800 points. Why? We got impeachment talk. It's instability.
And you have Elizabeth Warren rising in the polls. She wants to regulate Wall Street, so that's got a lot of investors shaking a little bit. Even more so, Mark Zuckerberg reportedly got caught on a moment of the leaked audio, saying
He's afraid she really is a socialist. Like, hey, we only want fake socialists. She's a real socialist. If she gets in, she's actually going to go after my wealth. She's going to pass a wealth tax. So Mark Zuckerberg has been captured saying he would do everything he can do to stop her. Oh, you mean like use Facebook? You mean you might use your social media platform to skew the election? Is that what he's talking about?
Digital interference, I think, is what you're referring to.
Yeah. So, anyhow, the markets are shaky right now. This is October. We're only into the second day of October. October is always the month of turbulence in the markets.
right.
Beginning of the fiscal year for the government.
Yes, but keep in mind 1929, 1987, 2008, October. So what all of this impeachment talk is doing, it's making, and Civil War talk, it's making us, as Americans, it's making us become tense and nervous and apprehensive again. And if I don't know what the future is, guess what? I don't make plans to expand, to grow, to invest, because I'm afraid that the future may not be stable. That's what the Democrats and the deep state and the CIA are doing to this country. It's not good for the mental health of the country. So, I mean, look, would they sacrifice the economy to get rid of Donald Trump?
Would they?
Would they? I would think they would.
It'd be another thing that President Trump wouldn't be able to show his face over, because at every public event, President Trump is quick to announce it. The economy right now, it's amazing. The job reports are great. That's all because of me. But if there was a crash, something huge, something 2008 like, something that would cause a major turbulence, not just in Wall Street, but across the world, President Trump would own it.
They're going to make him choke on it. Jeffrey Epstein, not much going on out there. The only thing I have found is his pervert buddy, Jean-Luc Brunel, is quietly selling off his MC2 modeling agency in Paris.
Right.
But nobody knows where he's at.
That's right.
He's selling off the business, but how do you go to closing if you buy the business because he's not around?
Well, maybe he's hanging out with Ghislaine Maxwell. We don't know where she is.
Or
either.
Jeffrey Epstein.
Right. So.
Hey, while we're talking about crooks, Netanyahu, he had his pre-indictment hearing today on his bribery cases.
11 hours.
11 hours. He wasn't there. His lawyers were there.
Right. They had nothing to talk about for 11 hours.
Yes. Netanyahu was trying to form a coalition government while his lawyers were trying to keep him out of prison. Netanyahu is finished. He's done. I don't know what he could possibly do to pull off. I guess I shouldn't. I mean, he's Netanyahu.
You shouldn't show him. Yeah,
He's
a week left here.
Yeah, he's capable. He's supposed to meet. No, today's Wednesday, isn't it? He was supposed to meet with Benny Gantz today, but that was canceled.
Right.
Gantz's campaign said we have nothing to talk about right now. But tomorrow, that's why we can't rule out that Netanyahu could hang on. Tomorrow he's meeting with Avi Lieberman. Right. And Lieberman is controlling like 8 votes in the parliament, in the Knesset. That's 8 votes.
It's enough to create the ruling majority.
Yes. Yes.
Now, Avi Lieberman has said that he would not serve in an administration with Benjamin Netanyahu. So maybe something shifted with Avi Lieberman at this point, or maybe there's a future coalition with the Likud party without Benjamin Netanyahu.
Yes.
And maybe there's a way to work out a deal on the indictments. And so that's going to be an interesting twist to see. I want to ask you a question about something on Benny Gantz, though, Rick, that caught my attention today. He didn't meet with Benjamin Netanyahu today, but Benny Gantz did spend Monday evening and all day Tuesday in London. Now, I just thought that was really odd. That here is one of the leading candidates to form, a government in the state of Israel. But he is spending a day and a half talking to leaders in London. Any thoughts on that? Any
Benny
speculation?
Gantz?
Yeah. No, he's back in Israel now, but he spent a full day and a half in London this week before coming back today.
Did he meet with the Queen?
I don't know who he met with, but I do know that he was in London and said meeting with top officials.
Was he in the city?
Well, that's what I wanted to get at.
That is separate.
He could have been meeting with the Rothschilds, because they didn't want to travel to Israel, and Benny Gantz went to the city.
Well, I would think in the most hotly contested race, basically in Israel's history up to this point, that I'd want to be as close to the fight as I could be all that time.
Why? When the people are going to make the decision are in the city.
There you go. So.
That's the same reason why Republican candidates visit Las Vegas during the primary period. Wasn't every Republican candidate in 2016 went to go see Sheldon Adelson, from Rand Paul to Marco Rubio to President Trump.
Right. Boris Johnson is suspending the parliament again.
Yes.
Well, the last time he said this was illegal. The fact that he's going for this again tells you that he's either taking a stand or he also could be on the outs. Or
the Queen is behind it.
And that has always been the prospect. She never came out against Brexit. She never made any public statements, but you'd think something as monumentous as this, for England to deshackle itself from the EU, that she would comment. And she does still have the power, Rick. She has a lot of power. The royal family can veto any bill coming through Parliament, and they have their own representative in the House of Lords. Maybe you're right. Maybe Boris Johnson does have the support of the Queen to take a stand here.
I would think so. After the trouble we got in on the first suspension of Parliament.
And what you were saying yesterday about the Remainers trying to make the appeal to the Queen to toss out Boris Johnson himself. So really, he has to be strong. I mean, he has to take a strong step.
I mean, I can't imagine that after what he went through, that first suspension, that he did not go to Buckingham Palace and say to Queen Elizabeth, Your Majesty, what do you want me to do? I mean, I just assume that's exactly what happened. And we don't know what she said.
The royal family survived World War I
She
and
may have
World War
said,
II.
I can't tell you right now because Benny Gantz is coming over.
But Rick, the left in England, they're anti-monarchy. So you always got to keep
Yes.
this in mind. They every time they see an election, they wonder if someone like Jeremy Corbyn or someone maybe worse would finally say publicly, we need to get rid of the monarchy. And that there is.
Yes, they're very concerned about it. By the way, for our audience, you're leaving tomorrow, right?
Yes.
Edward's going to be on vacation for a couple weeks.
About 10 days, yes.
All right. And you're going.
I'm going to the chaos. Yeah, I'm going to London.
You're going to London. Visiting family.
I'm visiting family. My granddad, he's in hospital for the last couple months. He's out of it now, so I'm really look forward to seeing him and my other
good.
family. So.
Oh, good. Okay. So if you visit the city and you see anything going on, give us a call.
You'll be sure to get a chance
No,
before that
seriously.
takes place.
Enjoy your trip home to visit family. So Edward will be gone for a couple weeks on vacation visiting family in London, and Doc and I will be here. I'll be here. I'll be here too, Doc. I'll be here. Hey, do we have video on Hong Kong? I see on my notes it just says a still.
I wasn't able to find an actual video of the clashes because it was basically mobs at nighttime. The video inside the South China Morning Post article was actually of the clashes during the day.
Yeah, So we didn't bring that video.
Yeah, we have that loaded from the daytime clashes, but we have a picture actually from the nighttime. If you want to see the nighttime.
Well, the video that was there was showing different angles of the shooting.
Oh yes, we do have that.
The video?
Control. Are you able to load that real quick? While we show the pictures of the clashes at nighttime, it would be one of the shots from yesterday for Control. Rick, this is what happened right after it during the nighttime. There were apparently roving mobs in the streets in Hong Kong. They destroyed basically subway stations, and look, they set fires right there in the street. And the biggest thing was, this is again during a time when there was a curfew. They weren't even supposed to be out. Clearly, the shooting, because one of the things that I'll put in cover today, Rick, is that the shooting actually forced a lot of these protesters to come together, and they were singing national anthems. They were outside the British Embassy, for example, in Hong Kong. This has become a martyring call for them.
Well, the mob can't go out because it's against the law.
They'll follow the rules.
So, all right. So, the South China Morning Post posted a video today. It was showing some different footage, different angle of what happened when that mob chased down a Hong Kong police officer and began to beat him.
Right.
And that's when the shooting took place.
Yes.
When you see the rest of it, it is shocking.
Right.
Because they were hunting him down to kill him. All right. Do we have it?
Yes, we have
All
it.
right, let's watch it.
It's not ready yet.
You've probably heard you why the central banks and the banks. Well, today we're going to discuss repos. And I'm going to show you how they are signaling the breakdown of the central bank experiment that started in 2014. I'm going to explain in simple terms exactly what they are, and maybe even more importantly, how they impact you. coming up. I'm Lynette Zhang, Chief Market Analyst here at ITM Trading, a full-service gold and silver dealer specializing in strategies to help you get through and maybe even thrive on the other side of the reset that, quite frankly, has already begun. And you know, there's been an awful lot of hoopla about repos, which have been around for a little while, but usually they fly right underneath the radar. But of course now everybody's wanting to know what's going on because they started breaking down in a very pervasive way last week. So the other thing that you need to be absolutely aware of is what they are tied to. The repo market is definitely a mess. And let me show you why this matters to you. And before I even do that, you know, I'm going to say that the repo market, the mystery of what's going on, reminds us that we are flying blind. So many experiments that have come on board since the 2008 financial crisis, all designed not to fix the underlying problems. Oh, heck no. Those are way bigger than they were in 2008, but rather to hide it from us. So this is the plumbing of the global financial system. And the central banks who pass on, they make policy and they pass that on, they use the commercial banks to execute that policy and send it through the system. Well, the repo market is the global plumbing. That's what provides, other than direct central bank QE, which we're going to talk about in a second, that's what really provides a lot of the liquidity through the money market funds. Now, you might recall what happened in 2008 when a money market fund broke the buck, in other words, fell below $1 a share, and then withdrawals were frozen. In other words, you wanted to get your money back, you could not do it, and not for a huge block of time. I'm going to show you that those dangers have now escalated, and now they've changed the laws, which we're going to go to in just a minute as a reminder. But I want to take this slowly. You go in, you have an account at a brokerage house or at a bank, or maybe even inside of a variable annuity, and maybe stocks pay dividends, or maybe you sell some property or you sell something and now you've got a block of cash, and hey, you are most likely to put it inside of a money market fund, which is actually just a mutual fund. But it's sold to you as being a cash alternative, pretty much like cash. There might be a few nuances to it, but that's how it's generally sold. So you go ahead and deposit that cash into the money market, then the bank, the insurance company, the pension fund, whoever, takes that cash and goes out into the repo market, and they buy treasuries or some kind of government security. Could be a mortgage-backed security, could be an agency security like Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac or something like that. So the repo market, which is represented by this IMF flow chart, is the plumbing of the global financial system. And you could see by a wide margin, it is money market deposits that fund most of this market. And you might recall really what happens, and I'm going to show you this in a second because they reaffirm it, that as soon as you make a deposit into any bank or brokerage house or what have you, or you buy a mutual fund or an ETF or anything, you become a beneficial owner, which means that your perception is that you actually own something, but in reality, you have given up legal title to that wealth. And that's why the banks can go ahead and use that for short-term trading for their benefit. So, and if you're not clear on it, you know, I am going to definitely take questions after this. So, what happens then is the treasuries go back into those money market funds. Now you're holding the treasuries in there instead of cash, or the agencies, or the mortgage-backed securities, or whatever short-term instrument they've done that with. Now, generally, it is a bank-to-bank lending system. So one bank who owns treasuries goes to another bank that has excess cash, and they say, okay, I am going I want to use these treasuries as collateral for a loan, maybe overnight that I might just keep rolling over, or maybe for 14 days or for something. And if you give me, to make life easy, $100, when the term is up, I'm going to give you $102. And that $2 is the lending bank's profit. So what actually happened, and considering that this is the largest part of the funding market, the way that they impact you is through money market funds. And aside from it being the entire global system. But if you're sitting in a bank or a brokerage account, chances are pretty good you have a money market account, and this is all applicable to that. But I need to take you back in history because people's memories are typically kind of short. So do you remember what happened on September 17th? There's a reason why I'm stressing that. You'll see this in a second. But September 17th of 2008, the redemptions were frozen, which means that if you had money, and I have a client that had money in the reserve primary fund, you wanted to make a withdrawal, you were not going to make a withdrawal. And in addition, people that had money in there lost some money. It took a while before they released all of the funds, but that's also what forced the government to go in, because there was a run on money markets happening. So they needed to stop the panic. So they went into the system and guaranteed up to $250,000 in money markets, and that calmed everybody's nerves. So, you know, today we probably forget about that. But they changed the laws. They never changed the behavior. They just changed the rules around that behavior. And typically that is not in your favor. Now, I've got lots of links in this. I would definitely encourage you all to follow it. But if you would like this one in particular, Megan, I think you gave it to all of the strategy specialists. So if you're working with anybody here, give them a call. They'll send you the graphic on this so you can take a look. But all of those changes that were passed in 2014 went into effect in 2016. Something that I found really interesting, you know, it's funny. It's not like I haven't used this spreadsheet before or even talked about this many, many times. But I definitely learn in layers. And what I didn't really see the last time I looked at this, but I totally saw it now, is what that NAV stands for net asset value. So at the end of the day, they revalue all of those securities, and now it's floating. So before, brokerage houses didn't necessarily want you to know that it wasn't going to be a dollar for dollar exchange, so they would keep that supported. Now, however, it is a floating net asset value, so it can go below $1. And frankly, if the government hadn't stepped in, that's exactly what would have happened, and you would have noticed that. Okay? But they go out on the holdings to 4 decimals. Well, let's see, there's only 2 decimals in the current system, right?